Okay, so I was thinking if I want to write this down, but also I hadn't necessarily thought it through enough to determine, but yeah, okay, so I don't, y'all know that I don't like to, like, I'm not a fan of tradition, but also I understand the value of tradition. And, you know, in a way, the spiritual tradition itself is like built by pioneers. Like they take something that was standard and they evolve it to fit the the needs of the societies that they're right. And so if we you know I've never called myself a Buddhist, and I don't really think that anybody should necessarily, because Buddhism, like Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. You know? Anyway, so you know, that said, we're positioned in such a way as to be on the receiving end of thousands of years of practice and collaboration, and you know, and so there are certain themes that are undeniably indicative of what we might call someone who's an authentic. It's a real practice. Yeah. You're doing a real practice. And so there have been various ways to try to like make that known, I suppose. In the same way that, you know, when you care, it's like the reason for that is simple. It's like when you care about somebody, you make it very clear what is what. Meaning when we drive our cars, there's a line down the middle, because we've had enough common sense to say, hey, you stay on this side and you stay on this side, and we can move, and it works, right? When we care about one another enough, or when we care about some discipline enough, when there's enough care, then there's some effort made to make clear the boundaries of the game, of the activity. Like within this you can do this. Like if these things are there, this type of thing can happen, right? So then the same thing is true, you know, of a lineage that is a quote unquote real lineage. There will be very clear indicators. Hey, if you are doing some type of activity as a student or whatever, if it's happening within this framework, then it's legit. If it's not happening within this framework, that's not what we do, you know? And then again, there will be some of us who are a little bit more on the provocative side of things. And, you know, there will be some movement to, out of care, to say, hey, if what you're doing, you're saying you're doing this, but it's not happening within this framework. That's not this. So please stop calling it this, because you're going to confuse everybody else who might be drawn to this. You're calling it this. It's not happening within this framework. Like I was saying a week ago or whatever, you know, me going to the basketball court and shooting a basketball is not playing baseball. Luckily that, you know, we know that that's not going to hurt anyone to call basketball. you know. But for someone who is seeking having something be called one thing that it isn't is potentially confusing. And it's just, yeah. So anyway, so our, you know, it's the same challenge that we've had, which is we're importing systems. We didn't grow up there.
You mean like yoga?
Yeah, right. We don't have that full weight of the history of it. We're not standing on that ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it's potentially dangerous. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know if you feel this way also, but it seems like I used to make the joke in music, like, oh, everybody's a music producer.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody's an artist. Everybody's a manager. Everybody has a record label.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody's a spiritual master.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if you... It's like everybody has...
Yeah.
Everybody's already knows everything about everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Now. And then so... Now, how do we actually... If I have a real question, how the hell am I supposed to know where to go to, like, get information? Because there's a million people claiming to be experts on I don't know what. Right? So I'm saying now this is the situation, and so now more than ever we need to be able to determine what represents something that's an authentic. Where if I have a real question and I need to go for an answer, where should I go? I need to understand. I need to be able / now more than ever there need to be those clearly defined frameworks that say, hey, if that type of activity is happening within this framework, within this boundary, it's legit. If it's not happening within this framework, it's not real. And it's just someone who bought Logic or has Ableton and has been making beats for 3 months, you know, or maybe has money and got a space, rented a space, has some monitors, but they've been making beats for 6 months or a year or something.
Yeah.
Right? Even if they've been doing it for 2 years, it's totally different than when you've been doing it with someone for 10, 20 years, 30 years, their whole life, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, what makes something legit? What actually is the defining factor or the defining characteristics that makes something legit? Right? And I'll say one more thing and then we'll touch on that. But I was looking again on Instagram, and there's a quote unquote Dharma center or something, and they posted something from someone saying, well, their interpretation was that, well, so nothing has inherent meaning. Right? We hear that. This is one of the problems of not continuing to update the language, is that when that language reaches a new group of individuals, there's the danger of misunderstanding, you know.
Repudiation or annihilation. I mean, nihilism.
Yeah, so nothing has inherent existence, which means that it's just a projection of my mind. And since everything is just pure potential, then whatever's showing up is just it's my mind that's projecting it that way. And if I'm not actually, so right now, I'm in samsara because my mind is projecting that I have a body, and that I'm not just pure energy, pure bliss energy. My mind is projecting that I'm breathing air. My mind is projecting that I'm on a floor, and because I'm not capable of projecting or perceiving that all of this is just pure bliss energy, that I'm surrounded by dakinis, that means I'm in samsara. Or, well, what do you want to project onto the world today? Well, I want to project 40 unicorns. This doesn't have any inherent... Why am I even speaking a language? It has no meaning, or whatever, right? It's like, it just gets crazy.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to see today? Well, what do you want to see today? Well, what do you want to project today? Right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now that might, how do we know that that's not true? Maybe that's true, right? Like, are there any filters, or is there anything that we can test that theory through? Yeah. But how do I just get to the point? So here's the problem. Here's the problem that I see with that. Is exactly what you brought up today.
Mm-hmm.
Pain.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, pain is the main frame. The mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
Pain is the mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm getting punched in the mouth,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting punched in the mouth by an abusive spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm doing the punching. What do you mean, spouse? It's a blissful being. You're just projecting that with your mind. Stop projecting that you're a victim. It's a blissful being. Your lip doesn't even exist.
Mm.
What do you mean? Your lip is just bliss energy. The blood is bliss energy. Stop projecting that in your mind. What do you mean that you're hungry for answers about life? And that you're confused, or that you're depressed, you don't feel you have any purpose in life? What do you mean? You're just projecting that. Or whatever. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you mean that your sibling or your spouse or your loved one is sick? No, tell them to stop projecting that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them, okay, your mind is projecting this. Just project a different reality.
Yeah.
Right? So for a Dharma center to call itself that and propagate something called just project whatever you want is actually one of the most distorted and insensitive things that can exist, because you're basically shitting on other people's pain.
Mm-hmm.
A.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But B, if something is a legitimate Dharma thing, whatever that is, then by definition, everything will revolve around pain. The three turnings. So what is Dharma, basically? Dharma is this thing that helps people not be confused and hurt themselves or hurt other people. Mm-hmm. It's the Hippocratic Oath, right? Do no harm. Mm-hmm. That's all that it is. And it's the technique so that I can actually become the type of being that does no harm. That's what it is. So harm, right? Pain.
Yeah.
So the Dharma is said to have come into our lives in three different stages or three different turnings, right? And each of the turnings builds on the other ones, right? And the first turning of the wheel is the Four Noble Truths. And what's the first truth? Truth of suffering.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. The second turning takes that up a notch, and it's the suffering of others. Mm-hmm. And the third turning works on the suffering of others, and that takes that up a notch. I have to become capable of totally eradicating that within myself, and also being able to explain that to other people, how to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my point is that if something is legit, then it has pain as its motivating force. The reason it is pursuing, the reason it is questioning, the reason it is seeking, the reason it's practicing, the reason it's praying, the reason it's studying is pain.
No pain, no gain.
Yeah, and confusion is a cause of pain. So pain or confusion, either one of those things.
Yeah.
Or confusion is a nicer way of saying ignorance. Pain. First, my own pain. First turning of the wheel, my own pain. Second turning, others' pain as best I can. Third turning, now I'm actually becoming competent at helping others see how to not be confused and produce pain for themselves and others.
But does that mean no confusion, no pain at all?
Well, no, because this is the thing, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to see today? Well, today, when I was reading this, I was getting kind of like heated, and I was thinking, okay, so this is Demon Ghost Cave, but for us, the cave has no meaning. It's Demon Ghost Ivory Tower. It's Demon Ghost Penthouse.
Yeah.
Like the only reason that you would stop and think, well, what do you want to project with your mind today? Well, dakinis everywhere, of course. Orgy of dakinis, of course. Gold bars raining down, dakinis making clothing, dancing, playing music. I'm floating on in dakinis. Dakinis are dancing in all of my limbs and joints, and that's what I want. Well, if you can't see that, you're not enlightened.
Anyone who wishes that doesn't understand how dangerous dakinis are.
Yeah.
Also.
So the only reason that I would even have that thought is if I feel like I'm not in pain.
Yeah.
Or that I'm not confused.
Also.
Okay, so now let's say that I am not in pain and I am not confused. Well, what about others' pain?
Right.
What about others' confusion? So then that's when the bodhisattva,
right.
That's the second turning.
Right.
Okay, that's great that you can sit, that's great that you have time now. So you think to sit and dream about how you like to project and then think about, I'm still trapped in samsara because I'm looking at a ceiling. Oh, no, it's not a ceiling, it's bliss. So, no. I'm still trapped in samsara because I'm stuck in this, I think I'm in this, no, it's not a body, it's bliss. Just leave your body as soon as possible. Well, maybe if I just leave my body as soon as possible, then that's... Anyway, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's fucking... yeah. So, then, if someone were to go to a legitimate space and say, I have questions about whatever, and interact with someone who's a legitimate teacher, and then there would be some process of examination, okay, you're in a pretty good space. You seem to have learned how to manage the first turning, which is you're applying the fourth truth, that is living realistically. As we begin to live realistically as individuals, our pain goes down, our confusion goes down.
Right.
Personally, I'm saying. Individual vehicle also. That's why Bob calls it that. As I begin to live realistically, my own personal individual pain goes down, my personal individual confusion goes down.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that my siblings or all of the potential beloveds, right? So then that's when that second turning would come. So
I was asking that because not me specifically, but rhetorically, I'm not confused, but I still feel the pain of others when they get sick or they're not doing well or they're confused.
Yeah.
You know? So eradicating all of my confusion is like an iota of the puzzle.
Yeah.
It's a little piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then if someone were really looking for an authentic space, the first thing that they would look for is, are they talking about pain and confusion as the basis of why they're doing everything? And then are the techniques structured in a way where first we have to acknowledge and address our own ignorance.
Yeah.
we have to acknowledge and address our own habits.
Yeah.
Great. And then what would indicate that you're in an authentic space is then, okay, that's great, but you're not doing that for you. Mm-hmm. You're not doing that so then you can sit and dream about dakinis.
Right.
You're doing that so that you can stop projecting that literally into the world, carrying it into the world. And you can start to equip yourself to become ready for the next challenge, which is now we work to benefit other people. Mm-hmm. We work to help relieve their pain. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be indicative of that, of a real space. Yeah, that's kind of all I got. I mean, unless there's more. But I don't know if just general comments about the culture online, things that...
Yeah, it's for the most part, what I can see is that we're just creating more like temporary addictions for people.
There's no gatekeeping to anything, like someone defining the boundaries of what anything is. So then, like anyone can say anything about whatever subject.
Yeah.
And it's at the viewer's discretion to, I think this is true or this isn't true, whether or not it's objectively true or not. So it's, I don't know, it's like a cesspool of confusion.
Yeah, and then if I'm not an expert, by definition, if I'm going to look for answers, that means that I don't know the answer. That means that I'm not the expert.
So you don't even know what you're looking for.
Yeah, so how would you be able to discern what is true and what isn't true? I don't know.
Well, the big thing that we need right now, I think, is a big debate conference. I think that's the only way that we can cipher through who knows what and what is what and what are these terms and all of that shit. Yeah. I mean, that's why Tibetan Buddhism is the way that it is. Because people spent centuries debating each other. Because they really want other people to know what's real and what isn't real. And what filter you can use and what filter you shouldn't use. And yeah, I think we've gobbled up a lot of different things and techniques, but we haven't even questioned whether or not they really are truly helping other people see that it's just not about helping yourself. That's just a little piece. That's fine. But I think, we got to hold a debate retreat or conference or something.
There was something I was writing about past week. Basically, it's one of the main issues, in this realm of discussion is that, as a society, we've accepted this idea that meaning or perception is something that is okay to be relative, meaning is subjective and the meaning of life can be whatever you want it to be, or it's different for each person. And I feel like that idea that people carry around is why statements such as the one that you were referring to are made. Because we don't agree that actually what we want is a clear view of things, not our own view of things. We don't like if everyone has their own view of things, which is basically how it is right now, then there's no consensus. Like, it's just moral relativism, basically. And that doesn't serve the community. Excuse me. Yeah, it's obvious to see why. It's like, if I think that X, Y, and Z are acceptable to do, like acceptable behaviors in the world, but somebody else doesn't agree and they think that A, B, and C are acceptable behaviors in the world, you already know, like, conflict is going to happen, more confusion, more pain. Like, it's so obvious, but yet we have some deep-seated, what's the word? Like a rejection of morals, or like there being a right answer to things. Because that means that there's some authority, and that would mean that the authority isn't us, and so then we would have to follow someone else, and well, that would suck, right? Because then we're not in control, or something like that. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Deep-seated trust issues.
Yeah, like our whole country is kind of based on that.
Yeah.
You know? And so we've just carried that into our daily lives, and we haven't stopped to take out the garbage and like really examine the views and see that actually it's really helpful if there's a right answer.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily like, we've talked about this a lot. The thing that we haven't imported from other cultures is teacherness.
Yeah.
Right? And that isn't just, okay, well, here's this expert person on Instagram who's telling me that I need to do X, X, and Y, and so I should just listen to them, right? Like, there's like this blind following of teacherness also. There's like people that don't trust at all, and then people who are just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll listen to this guy who tells me whatever, or lady who tells me whatever. Like, what we also need is that filtering of like, okay, sure, sounds like a great teacher, but like, who was their teacher? And then like, who was their teacher? And then who was their teacher? And who was their teacher? Like, what is the lineage that like is backing them and stamping them to say that these thoughts are, you know, pertinent to understanding, you know, this shared human experience? How are they organizing the teachings also? Does it make sense? Is it common to everybody in the room, or everybody in our society? You know, yeah, just something that I was kind of thinking about also. Like, that's why I made the joke on Instagram about we should all listen to Instagram experts. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. That's what we've been doing.
How's that working out?
Right. Yeah. How's that working out, you know?
That's crazy though that you mentioned those two exact things, because yesterday I found the transcript that you made for Common Sense and Linking the Chain.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this one's really good.
Yeah.
So I went back to the podcast and I listened to the podcast, and it literally says exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, we've talked about this so many times over and over again, that there are those two main things that sort of, I guess, give validity to a teacher and whatever teachings they're giving.
Yeah.
Which is, one, that they are linked in to a particular lineage, meaning that they have received instructions from someone before them, and that person's received instructions from someone before them, and there's a long line of sincere, authentic investigation. And then the second thing was common sense, which has like, it's like a funny play on words, I guess. One is that it's common sense in the way of like being able to present teachings clearly and organized and in a way that that is obviously makes sense to most people.
A sense of commonality.
Well, that's the second one.
Yeah.
The sense of commonality is sort of like the playing with the words.
Yes. Yeah.
The sense of commonality is the, I guess we're calling it global responsibility now. So our perception of being connected to others, and therefore the sense of responsibility to care for, to benefit them, to help educate them, just to be a positive impact on their lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like those are the main two things that would stamp a teacher or teaching with authenticity.
Yeah.
Final comments or close it?
Well, do you feel like we hit, what you were kind of, trying to get us to all understand? Or seems like the issue is that no one knows what the fuck they're talking about. And it's just confusing more people, and more people are then taking that and confusing more people, and eventually we're just going to implode. Like we have to clean this up. So how do we clean this up? And because essentially a little bit what we're talking about is all the yoga that's being done. It's not yoga. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's like stripping that entire scaffolding of misleading, misinformation, that people are practicing every day in studios and inculcating in our youth and everyone.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing thing,
What you're saying is making me think of the culture war, and woke versus non-woke, and then toxic masculinity and all of these things. And so, and it's like, and I keep seeing these things on I don't know, wherever I see them about the obvious ones: mental health crisis, addiction, overdose, suicide, the young men dropping out of the workforce, and
young men who are going crazy and getting lost and doing all sorts of ridiculous things with their lives.
But specifically to this idea of toxic masculinity, and then young men feeling that they don't have anywhere to go.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's like, well, but wait. So so men are toxic, but women aren't. Yeah. Women are good. Women aren't experiencing a sense of purposelessness. Women aren't doing that. Remember, I used to make the joke in Namaste, like, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. And there were all these books that would come out about goddess this and that, everyone's a goddess and all this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, can you imagine if we put books for men? Men are gods. It's like, well, I'm going to God. Where are you going? I'm going to goddess class. Where are you going? I'm going to God class.
I am a god.
But I'm saying, why is it something that's promoted and encouraged for women to think of themselves as goddesses, but men can't think of themselves as gods? And the point I'm making is what do you call it?
It's a double. Standard. It's early. Double standard. Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that it's not indicative of one side being more or less healthy than the other. It's what it indicates is that the whole thing is fucked. The culture itself, if culture is in a war, it means culture itself is not healthy. Right? So to your point, more than ever, what we need are clearly defined terms.
Yeah.
Right? That's really the point I wanted to make, and that with respect to the spiritual process, for lack of better words, pain is the marker of an authentic space. If we're trying to address our own pain and me suffering, I see dakinis everywhere. I'll just microdose. Actually, if I microdose, then I won't ever have negative emotions surface because why? Yeah, or whatever, right?
Right.
It's like I can just dance around the fact that actually underneath there is some sense of I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I can mask that by doing some acid or getting high, smoking, whatever. I can just mask that. Or anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent, but my point is that an authentic space is designated as such by inquiry into the relationship between confusion and pain. And traditionally, that inquiry is set up systematically where first we learn how to look at our own
Right.
and minimize our own.
Right.
And look at the habits that we're currently expressing or displaying that produce that for ourselves and get rid of those or try to start working on those.
Yeah.
But we're doing that, to your point, not as an end in itself, but as a preparation for a larger task, a larger mission.
Right.
Yeah.